Hey,
4C
Fourth divers.
Divers! Well, our Facebook Live had some technical difficulties, so we decided to record this presentation on Zoom, which is going to be clearer and it's going to be more efficient. So here we go. If you recall, we were talking about the Cuba trip that 4C has booked in 2026, so next year. And we've got our travel manager, Rachel, on the line. Hi, Rachel.
Hey guys, you can hear me now. That's good.
So Rachel is awesome at planning some amazing trips all around the world for us divers and putting some of the most fantastic dive trip leaders also on these trips to make sure that you're not only having a safe time and getting the dives that you want, but also having a fun time. Because if you saw the videos and photos from our Roatan trip, wow, that was a lot of fun. We were dressing up for Halloween. Yeah, that would be me. And Roman. So we've got a lot of trips in the future. But we really want to tell you about this Cuba trip because Rachel is going to be your trip leader. All
Whoop,
right. And if
whoop.
we get enough people, then you might get me.
Double the fun.
We're double trouble.
No
All
other way.
right. So we're going to go ahead and let Kelly from the Cuba Liveaboard talk to you guys about the trip that we have planned and the history and all these cool different things and facts that you need to know about traveling to Cuba. So Kelly, go ahead and share your screen.
All right. And bear with me. I'll get it in the right mode here.
Thanks so
And
much, Kelly, for joining us. She works for
yeah,
a company called Avalon. She's going to tell you all about it.
absolutely. All right. Can everybody see that? Okay.
Yep,
Screen's
you're
up there.
good.
All right. I'm gonna rock and roll. All right, guys. Thanks. Sorry about the technical difficulties earlier, but glad that was a quick fix in the grand scheme of things. So I'm Kelly. I'm with Avalon Outdoor, and we are a lot of people refer to us as the Cuba Liveaboards, but we are the only operator in Cuba. Um, I do want to start with a little bit about me. I've been diving for almost 30 years. I think it has been 30 years now, working in the industry for a lot of those. I've managed multiple dive stores around. I also was the regional sales manager for Aqualung. I also now am the whites dryware representative for the US. And I just like to show this picture just because my kids are cute and they're going to be future divers and snorkelers. We're not going to leave them much choice. Moving on, who is Avalon? Avalon has been doing this for over 30 years now. We are, as I mentioned, the exclusive operator in Cuba. There are multiple protected marine parks around Cuba. We operate the scuba diving primarily in Gardens of the Queen. Though we also do snorkeling in that area as well. We also have programs like the fly fishing program that really helps support the other half of our conservation efforts there. It is a no-take fly fishing program, and I know, as crazy as that sounds, the fly fishing and the diving program actually work really well together in supporting all of our initiatives. Um, I think I'll leave it at that for now. As many of you may know, some may not, Cuba is the largest island in the Caribbean, right there off the coast of the US. And it is only, I think, about an hour and 15-minute flight from Miami. And I think most people don't realize there are daily nonstop flights right from the US. So it is a lot more accessible in that regard than I think what most people assume right out the gate. Sorry, bear with me as I skip through that one. Um, Cuba itself has 9 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and it is really a fascinating island full of history. I mean, obviously, Cuba has a rich history, just going into it, but when you're there, it's like you feel it. It's really a powerful place. Classic cars always come up as conversation, and I just like to tell people who haven't been there, there really are those classic cars everywhere. It's just really an incredible sight to see, not only just for the cars, but it is like a country that is absolutely just stopped in time. And in one scene, you can have a big old bus, air conditioned bus, like a similar to a Greyhound, and then you can turn around and literally see a horse and buggy going down the road right next to it. So it's really quite a unique place in that regard. I can't not talk about the Cuban people. They're amazing and they're resilient and they love us, but you'll leave and feel the same love for them. So it's they're really special and it's a place that tugs at your heartstrings almost immediately. I did want to mention really quick before I forget. Speaking of Cubans, all of our crew is Cuban. So they are all Cuban people that are on our crew. We don't bring crew in from outside. They're all Cuban crew. And to me, that's also really powerful, very meaningful, especially with regards to the relations and conversations that you're going to get to have with them. And they're always happy to share more about their life and, you know, just details of things that are a lot more intimate than other liveaboards, in my opinion. So below the surface, Gardens of the Queen, Jardines de la Reina, was established as a marine reserve in 1996 and really is still considered one of the most fully intact, healthy marine systems in the world, but most definitely in the Caribbean. Um, I like to show this picture just because I think it gives a powerful visual of the vastness of the Gardens of the Queen. It you can see it's a unique area just looking at this map. It is 90 miles of mangrove reef system and it is 60 miles off the coast of Cuba. So it's very remote. It's 90 miles north of Cayman. But again, just reiterating, it's really very remote, and we are the only ones out there. So if you're not on an Avalon boat slash program, you're not in the Gardens of the Queen. You're not in this protected marine reserve, and it's a very vast space. Again, just kind of really like the way these pictures portray this area. You can see it in a little bit more detail. In talking about just the how healthy the area is, um, obviously conservation plays a huge part in that we limit the access. It's a controlled number of people and number of divers and number of fishermen that are going out there. They're also down to what zones, how many people are in any given zone at any given time and over a course of a year and what they're allowed to do when they're there. So it's all very controlled and that has a huge impact. But I think it's really important also to mention the importance that the mangrove plays in that they are completely intact. There's no structures. They're all virgin mangroves, basically. And they have a huge importance on, obviously, we all know about the nursery, you know, the habitats and stuff that they provide for the baby marine life. But also the I didn't even really realize the importance of this until I started working for Avalon. But the nutrients that flow in and out of the mangroves or through the mangroves onto the reef during the tides, that plays a huge factor in allowing those reefs to rebuild and stay healthy. For a lot of other areas in the Caribbean in particular, those mangroves aren't healthy. They're not most of the time they get cut down in many areas for development. So the mangroves just play a really big part in that. And the fact that we are there and they are protected is a huge factor in why the reefs look like they do and the marine life is what it is. That's that. Groupers and sharks. That's the other, it's one of the big draws for the Gardens of the Queen specifically. Another indicator that it really is such a healthy area is you're going to see sharks on basically every dive. Caribbean reef, silkies, occasionally hammerheads. There are whale sharks sometimes seasonally if we get lucky. There's been numerous trips over the last couple years where they've stumbled across them, which is really cool. Uh, so groupers and sharks, they're everywhere. Um, I don't mean to be rushing through any of these slides, but I have a video coming that I think everybody will find really more powerful than this. Again, we kind of talked about the mangroves. I like that image on the bottom left with the aerial view because I think it's just a really powerful image to show the vastness of it and kind of how like it's mangroves everywhere. And but at least it gives you an idea of kind of what it will look like when you're out there. Yes, there are also crocodiles. The crocodiles, you're definitely going to be able to see them. I'm all about full transparency, and I want to tell people up front that in the past, we used to actually have crocodiles that where they would take you into a particular part of the mangroves, and the crocs would come and we could safely let like one or two snorkelers in at a time, and they would have the opportunity to snorkel with the crocs and get kind of that up close interaction with them in a safe way. More recently, in the last year, they stopped being as consistent and coming around, so we've made a decision to stop that. Mostly for inconsistency, but also just because we felt like they're not doing it. We need to probably back off and not be in the water with them right now. So though they are around, you won't see them on the reefs on your dives, but you absolutely will likely see them as you guys are cruising through the mangroves or on your mothership. You might see one up, up off, in the mangroves off to the side because the boat's more pretty close to the mangrove area. But know that they're there. But if you've read articles or read about past trips, just know that we're not able to promise you that you're going to have the opportunity to snorkel with them, but you're definitely going to see them. All right. Hopefully the sound plays on this. Let me hit play on this little video here.
My dream is always to go back in time. What was it like 100 years ago? Here we can do that.
A lot of people refer to the Gardens of the Queens as the crown jewel of the Caribbean. It is one of the few places that you can see a coral reef ecosystem the way it was thousands of years ago.
It's life stacked upon life, stacked upon life.
It's all these things that it seems like the Caribbean ceased to embody.
This is the last example we have of this ecosystem fully functioning and full of life.
This entire ecosystem is connected. It's complex. It's fragile.
This is something the world needs to see. The world needs to learn about places like this, and they need to learn why places like this don't exist.
In 1984, Fidel Castro flew here and he went diving with Jacques Cousteau in the Gardens of the Queen. And he was mesmerized by what he saw. So the line was drawn around it and he protected it. So Cuba has one of the largest marine protections in the world. 25% of Cuban waters are protected.
How can we be in harmony with a protected place and actually both benefit from it? That's something that's happening here, and that's something that we can learn.
The number one thing that's special about this area is how they limit the access of ships.
Several boats could remove every shark in the Gardens of the Queen within a couple of days.
It's complicated. It has to do with political environment, but the government mandates that these businesses have to hire marine biologists, do the management. So the government, working with the small businesses, working with the marine biologists, create a system that works. So this place is a testament to that.
You don't need to be a scientist to realize what's happened here. Stand back and just look.
get into the mangrove systems and see light shafts coming through sardines, small microinvertebrates and crocodiles. It's right here in your face. And there's no humans anywhere. And then get out into the open blue, pop in, boom, 8-foot sharks swirling around you.
Caribbean reef sharks, silky sharks, Goliath groupers, tiger groupers. These are the big megafauna that says this is a healthy reef ecosystem. It's a blueprint of success that can be followed by every other Caribbean nation. Nature has evolved over 4 billion years to reach a balance of perfection. If you remove one thing from this fragile, complex ecosystem, you have begun an unraveling process that we can't fully fathom. The simple solution to this is to protect it all. Draw a line around it and allow it to do its thing. If you protect it, it will thrive.
All right. So I like that video because it's not okay. Eventually I'm going to figure out how to work my computer here. It's not a marketing video. That's Sea Legacy is a conservation awareness group, and I think they did a really good job putting that video together. But it was obviously very intentional. That's not a tout to Avalon. That's just a tout to the fact that what we're doing out there is working, and it really has a powerful impact. So that's a little bit about the diving. Now let's talk about the boat. So we have multiple boats in our fleet. The 4C group is going to be on the JA3 at this point. Very nice boat, newer boat, modern, all like things like outlets or US outlets, really comfortable accommodations. Has a hot tub on board, the sun deck, a bar with the mojitos. So the boats are really very comfortable. The one you guys are going to be on is fabulous. It will be just for 4C. Food is great. We get compliments all the time about people loving the food. What I do want to mention and remind people just about food in Cuba is that I think you're going to be really happy with it, but please keep in mind that a place like Cuba doesn't have all the options that we a lot of times take for granted. I like to use peanut butter as an example. Somebody said, hey, just want to make sure that they have this particular brand of peanut butter because it's all I can eat. And I had to basically politely write them back and say, like, they're not going to have peanut butter at all. So if you need to bring the peanut butter with you. Just so they work really well, but the options can sometimes feel a little bit limited. So they'll make many different dishes. But you may see some repeat main staples in there. Again, it doesn't mean it's not good. We can do vegetarian, no problem. But when people start to say like gluten-free, we can also do. But much more than that, like you're going to need to make sure that you just come prepared with other supplements that you're comfortable with. Again, put in the request, but just know that we're going to do the best we can with a limited resources. But you won't be disappointed. The food is amazing and our chefs are fantastic. Just a comment on the food because I like to set expectations accordingly. And okay, so that's kind of the boats. Probably the next most important thing is that to mention is that all the diving is done from a skiff, never from the mothership. So though the dive deck on y'all's boat in particular, but on most of our boats are huge, you'll actually very rarely be on the dive deck. Your gear is going to stay on the skiff and you will only have the responsibility of getting on and off the skiff each time with your wetsuit, maybe your mask and snorkel if you want to bring those on and off. But in general, most of your gear, especially the hard goods, is going to stay on the skiff and the crew is going to help, they can spray that down at the end of the night, make sure it doesn't have salt sitting on it all night. They're going to take care of filling your tanks and changing that stuff out. they'll help you in and out of the water as needed. But I think it's important to know that every activity that you do in the Gardens of the Queen is going to be from a skiff and not from the mothership. So you're not going to be jumping off necessarily and snorkeling around the mothership. Um, or at least that's not the expectation that you should have going into it. Every activity that they're going to do, you're going to get on a skiff and go do it and then come back to the mothership. Most of the dive sites are anywhere between 10 and 25 minutes away, depending on which skiff you're on and depending on which dive site you're going on, what zone, all the things. But 10 to 25 minutes. You guys are going in the summer months, so it's not going to be as windy, chilly. But for those of you that get cold, I do always recommend, like anything for a skiff ride, make sure that you've got like a hat and, your extra sunscreen and maybe a little jacket to throw on, or windbreaker for those rides back and forth. I think a little dry bag is really helpful, just so you can throw your stuff in a little dry bag, just because it is a skiff. It's not a Zodiac. It is a proper skiff like you see in that picture there. But a little dry bag goes a long way to just put your extra little stuff in to keep it intact and dry. Um, other than diving, we can do snorkeling. We also have some paddle boards. Those are used kind of an on request basis, but they are out there, and it's just you have to go with a guide. So we just need to coordinate to make sure that there's a guide that takes you guys out. You guys, Rachel, probably on the trip, will be responsible for just chatting with everybody about coordinating that on demand with the crew upon arrival. You will also have the opportunity to go up on the beach and visit with the hutillas, and there's like giant hermit crabs and iguanas, and the hutillas, as you can see in that picture, he's adorable. They're the cutest little rodent rats you've ever seen, and I can't get enough of them. And you'll be able to like feed them fruit and give them little bits of water, and they're so cute and native to this area. Um, Lots of wildlife. Again, because it's so remote, it ends up being actually a pretty big stopover for migratory birds. For those of you who are bird watching enthusiasts, definitely plenty of that happening too. Switching gears a little bit. I put what makes traveling to Cuba with Avalon Outdoor unique because it sounded better than what makes it legal. But legal is always the first question that we get, is how are we able to go to Cuba as as a US citizen? How does this all work? The US has like 13 general licenses or legal reasons on why you can travel to Cuba, under one of those reasons. And for us in particular, because we are a conservation program, as well as we have marine biologists that are on the boat with our groups, that do presentations and help aid and add education into that as well. But it's really more about awareness. But all of those factors play into why ours falls under humanitarian projects. It comes back all into play with that conservation and management plan. Again, with the marine biologist, we also, you can participate in species census. So we'll assign you a fish, couple fish if you want, or a couple marine life at the beginning of your trip. And you'll be able to kind of keep tabs and record how many of those you see on every dive. And as maybe silly as that sounds to some, that data is absolutely submitted and recorded and used in the ongoing research, and it plays a big part. So again, it matters. That again, playing back into why we fall under humanitarian projects. It is a general license. It means it does not need approval. It is simply something that you need to be aware of why you're traveling to Cuba. You're doing it under this general license, and because of our program and the fact that you're going to spend a full-time itinerary participating in this program for the week, even if you're just snorkeling, you are still participating in our program as a whole, and that is what qualifies you for legal travel under this general license. So I just like to make clear that it's there's no special permission or anything that you're asking for in regards to the legalities of this. It is simply part of being our program. This is the category that you fall under. We provide this certificate of completion as well as a detailed itinerary of how you spend your days or the programs and things that we have going on, just so that you can have those for your record. Just again, to validate why you traveled there and what you did. I don't like to sound like I'm beating this in, but I think it's really important to remind everybody you going on these trips absolutely is why this all works. If we did not have divers participating in these programs, it would not work. It takes you going for this to all come to fruition. This is providing the program the funding and participation that it needs in order to do what it needs to do. So as cheesy as it sounds, this doesn't work without you. So you do play a really big part in it by going on these trips. And obviously it's working, and that is proof in the pudding, as they say. And it's there, and I hope you guys see that when you get to go as well. Um, on a more personal level for the Cubans themselves, um, supporting the Cuban people is is another massive part of this. The tips that you give to the crew, those that's the crew's money, and it's so valuable to them to have that go directly into their hands. So also a lot of times people will ask if they can bring things down to the crew. Things like medication is always appreciated, vitamins. A lot of times I remind people that like children's medication sometimes gets forgotten about. So children's allergy medicine, children's Tylenol, and thermometers and things like that. They always love chocolate. That's a little bit more of a limited resource. Also, just hats, sunglasses, things that sometimes are a little bit harder for them to come by. There's a lot of things in here for us in the U.S. that we take for granted and can have from Amazon in less than a day. And the Cubans just don't have access to that stuff as easily. So, just for all that it's worth, just know that when you go on these trips, regardless of what capacity you're tipping in, how many you go on, you absolutely make a difference to the program and the conservation, but also to the people directly. Um, that's my sweet slide about supporting it, because I also love this picture. I have one more little slide I just want to talk about here on kind of the logistics of the trip schedule for anybody that's just now considering joining 4C. I believe right now 4C's main setup for their trip is to fly directly into Camagüey, which is amazing. You can go Miami to Camagüey. We pick you right up from the airport. We take you straight to the boat. It is a 2.5 hour little bus ride, but again, it's kind of really cool to see the countryside. You can see the Camagüey airport down towards the bottom right of the screen. And it's about a 2.5 hour drive to Hookerville Port, where the mothership departs out of. You'll go for your week of diving. You'll go out to the Gardens of the Queen. Normally that's Saturday night, and Sunday is when your dives start. So you'll dive Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and a half a day on Friday. Then on Friday afternoon, after your second dive, you'll go back to the mothership, and the rinsing of the gear will commence, and everybody will be a little bit sad, but also ready to party. And they'll hang out the gear to dry. Hopefully it's not raining. And you guys will head back into port. You'll get to port, late Friday evening and Saturday morning. So you'll spend the night on the boat or on the mothership in port. And Saturday morning, you get up, we get you off the boat, we transfer you back to the Camagüey airport, and out you go. Fly right back into Miami. You're back in your own bed by that night. It is an option to fly into Havana on the front end of the trip is our suggestion. Though I like to remind people two things. That Havana to Hookerville Port is 6.5, 7 hours bus ride. There is no plane option on that. It's definitely possible, and I understand why a lot of the draw sometimes is people want to tie those up and go together. My only comment in addition to that would be you can go to Havana and spend a couple days there anytime you want. You would fall under a different license for those couple days in Havana. Typically, people will fall under the general license support for the Cuban people for that. but I just like to remind people sometimes they think because they're going to Cuba to do this dive trip that they must pair. Well, obviously, we've got to go to Havana too. And while that does make sense, and a lot of times they can pair nicely together, the reality is you can absolutely check Havana off your list on a separate couple day trip and have a really wonderful, like long weekend or something supporting the Cuban people, under that general license. Don't feel like you've got to pair them. So I'll follow up with Rachel if you have more specific questions on that. There are land agencies, and we've got one we can also refer people to do that type of program. But please don't think that that's a must. The diving the Gardens of the Queen is going to be spectacular. So it's really a trip in its own. If you need to pair it, but don't feel like that's something you got to do. I think that was it. Here's just a picture of another dive shop out of Colorado on their last trip. Depending on your crew, some of our crew are really great with the towel folds, and they're so cute and they get so creative on those. And he's adorable. I mean, who doesn't want to hang out with one of these hutillas?
I can't wait to meet one.
Yeah, they're so cute. I mean, look at that overbite. So, yeah, Rachel, I think that's what I've got for the presentation. Did I miss anything or any topics you want me to hit on just while we're recording?
I actually had a couple of questions, if that was okay.
Absolutely.
For one, since our trip is June 20th through the 27th, what's the water temp we're looking like over there?
82 to 84, probably closer to that 83, 84 range.
Perfect.
If
Nice and warm.
you want really accurate information, I like to remind people it is only 90 miles north of Cayman, and Cayman tends to have a more abundant resource in current water temps than if you just Google Gardens of the Queen specifically. So whatever the water temp in Cayman is going to be what it's
Cool.
in the Gardens of the Queen.
Awesome. And as far as the trip goes, we do only have 5 spots left right now. So I don't know if you need to circle back with the slides or if you could, but we have one balcony suite left, and we have 2 of the standard rooms left. So as far as that goes, any of those beds could be turned into doubles if there are people that don't sleep in the same bed versus if a couple wants to join. So there's that when it comes to this trip. But other question I was going to ask you is if we have a couple of people that might not do dairy, like vegans, do you think they'll be able to accommodate okay?
Yes, I should also disclose that in most cases the dairy is going to be rehydrated powdered milk. And yes, so yes, there
They'll be
isn't,
able to do
I
like
guess
soy
what
or
I'm saying is
whatever.
there's not a lot of milk there. There's eggs for breakfast normally, but they'll have like a lot. They'll have normally for breakfast it's eggs, bacon, and when I say bacon, like it's like the most legitimate. It's like some bacon. It's not like I don't know how to describe it, but it feels very bacony. It's bacon. And this is coming from a girl from Texas, so like it's very bacony. Eggs, bacon upon request, toast, and they'll have cereals with milk, but they're not gonna have what else? Like, what else would you think for breakfast? Like, because
Like if we could get from there, there's a lot of people that probably have it now, but they could do like soy milk or something an alternative
yeah,
in case someone, okay, because worst case, like you can tell somebody to bring it in their checked
yeah.
bag if it's shelf stable. I've been to a lot of remote places where, you may have to do that. But
Absolutely. So shelf stable fill-ins for things that are like that type of thing is really even if because sometimes we may say like yeah we've had that before but it also just they might not be able to get it that week. So there's a lot of fluctuation and inconsistency sometimes in very specific items.
okay.
So I only bring it up because I like to be really upfront. I'd rather somebody know in advance and come
Be
prepared than
prepared.
show up and be
We
like,
can always contact way ahead of time to see every little thing and
Absolutely.
make sure we can get stuff if it's
Absolutely.
limited
And
return.
Kelly, is there anything that we should know that we can't bring into the country?
Yes, that's a super good question. I'm going to start by saying, please make sure to read the documentation that 4C sends you. We've worked really hard on some pre-trip document links, and they, as full as they feel, they are very intentional. On one of those documents is a diving, or one of those document links is a diving checklist. On that diving checklist, probably the most important part is towards the bottom where it says what not to bring. And the biggest thing I should mention there is satellite phones and drones. Any satellite devices, even and I think it's a satellite device, like the Garmin things, I think are a thing. Don't don't bring it if you want to make sure you still own it after the trip because they will confiscate it. So drones and satellites, no go. My broader statement on that is only bring, in that regard, what you're willing to lose. The same goes for when you are coming back. Only bring back what you're willing to lose.
What about gloves?
Gloves are fine. You can totally bring gloves, but we hope that you only use them on the line in the event that you need them for your ascent because you get excited and float to the surface within 15 feet. Otherwise, you can have gloves on, but you won't need them. There isn't a lot of current. This is the type of dive destination that is great for all levels of divers. Open water is totally fine. So gloves are no problem. We just obviously don't claw all over the reef with them. I had another thing I was about to mention and I've forgotten it. I'm going to call them supplements, your add-ons. So nitrox is available, rental gear is available. I'll talk about the dive upgrade or the 4 dive a day upgrade in just a second. Those all those types of things, in particular, like the nitrox and any rental gear, everything for this trip is paid in advance to 4C. Nothing is paid on board except for tip to the crew, which needs to be paid in USD cash. So there are no credit cards on board, and you will, if you didn't buy nitrox in advance, then you won't have nitrox for the trip because we can't accept payment for it once you're there in Cuba. So to all of those that are out there, either signed up or thinking about signing up, please make sure that you decide well in advance what your transfers are going to look like make sure you're flying into Camagüey, out of Camagüey, so we know where to pick you up, and nitrox, rental gear, etc. Please don't wait till the last minute. That is something we have to arrange in advance and communicate to our team and take payment for in advance. So
And as a matter of fact, since you brought up the nitrox, any liveaboard that we do, we mandate nitrox, so everybody will be on nitrox because it's 3+ dives a day. You're diving nitrox.
Love that. We do, I'll leave it at follow up with Rachel because I don't know how you set it up with the dives. Do you know how many dives are included in your package on your flyer?
Yeah, I'll tell you 1 second. Hold on. It says 3 dives a day and a night dive.
Okay, perfect. That's good. There is always an option, maybe for more, but I'm not sure if your group was gonna do that or not.
Says 5 alcoholic beverages per day.
Yes, we should talk about that
at the end of the night when you're done diving.
Let's talk about that. So the way that the drinks work, because it is a little bit different or unique, we allow for 5 beverages, what we're gonna call specialty beverages per day per person, plus 1 rum cocktail. Those 5 specialty beverages are things like a can of soda, a bottle of water, a beer, wine, that kind of thing. So a lot of people, maybe they'll have like a soda with lunch and then they'll have 3 beers at dinner. They're good. They're within their 5. And they want a mojito right when they get off the boat because it's, or right when they come up, from their last dive or whatever. Just know that it's 1 rum cocktail a day. You can buy more, if that was what you wanted to do. They're only like $2 or $3 per rum cocktail above your allotment. But more importantly, you are welcome to bring whatever you want on board. So you can bring a bottle of rum, you can bring a bottle of vodka, you can bring a bottle of tequila, you can bring whatever you want on board, and the crew will happily help make drinks for you too. Just keep in mind that it's not going to be like open bar. There's pretty much going to be like rum, and rum to choose
That makes
from.
sense.
So they can make you a mojito or a daiquiri or a Cuba Libre. But if you want anything else or you're expecting some fancy mixer stuff, you're going to need to bring that on your own. They're not going to have like open bar mixer like thing. So just a full disclosure on that. So depending on what alcohol level, some are like, I don't drink at all. And some are like, I brought my bottle of tequila and my bottle of vodka with me. So
We're gonna have a very mixed group. I already know the people that are on the trip. Some
perfect.
drink a
So
lot and some will not.
I'm not, yeah, because it's the beer and wine is there, and most people that's within most people's allotment. Like you probably don't need much more than that. And again, you can pay cash for the little bit extra if you go over. But for those that are more of the liquor drinkers, it is important to note that rum's going to be your only option, and you might as well just bring your own in. You can buy it duty free in the airport in Miami and bring it into Cuba duty free. So that's another option.
One more question about diving equipment. Do they have din tanks or is it just yoke tanks?
It is din tanks with a yoke insert in it. So yes, they can screw that out. I will admit that my crew, as much as I love them, they don't want to work harder than they have to. So a lot of times they'll try to encourage you to put a yoke adapter on it.
Sometimes they get seized in there, so I always tell people to bring an adapter just in case. When it comes to the Caribbean, I never ever see all din tanks. Like sometimes you have a group that's very heavy with din, and they're never able to accommodate no matter where you go in the Caribbean. They always have some
Yeah.
of them that are seized and
Yeah,
stuff.
they're over there like trying to
Always
get
bring
out
your adapter on trips, especially if it's in the Caribbean.
because our
Um,
fill is a yoke, and so but their din tanks we can accommodate. Bring an adapter for those that
right.
must have it that way.
And no steel tanks, correct? Just aluminum tanks.
No steel tanks. We do have 100 cubic foot and we have 80s as our standard. So you can request a 100 cubic foot tank. They are not additional cost.
Great.
But I don't want to say there's a limited. Normally we don't run out. But we'll try to allocate for those that really need the hundreds first.
Sure.
So put those requests in. We do not have 63 tanks. So we
Okay.
only have 80s and hundreds. There's no additional cost for hundreds.
Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, if there's not any other questions, I think we have an awesome trip planned, ladies. And I'm hoping that we can get the rest of those spots sold quickly and potentially get me on the trip as well.
Let's do it.
5 spots left. Sign up now.
And now, when they're gone, the boat is full. No more
That's it.
spots. It's honestly, guys, it's such a great trip, and I'm really glad you guys are making it happen. I have no doubt it's going to be a memorable one, and I know our crew is going to work really hard to take care of you guys, and I know the diving hopefully wows you guys like it should for most. And I just like to remember as my last little tidbit, if you're ever on the trip and anything is not right or you're not happy with something or you need something fixed or something's, please say something. The crew will honestly work every time to make it as best as it can. That's their ultimate goal, but they can't fix it if they don't know what's wrong. So please make sure to communicate with Rachel and with your trip leader and with our crew. Normally try to start with Rachel because that's the trip leader's chain of command. But again, just we want to know what's working and we want to know what's not. So please make sure to communicate. But we're excited to have you guys.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Awesome. All right, everybody.
All
Thanks
right.
for tuning in.